For more, we're joined by Dan McClory. He's the Managing Director, Head of Equity Capital Markets and Head of China at Boustead Securities. Dan, thank you for being with us. Dan, the president threatening more tariffs. Markets perhaps seeing it more as a bargaining posture on Monday, but they seem to take it as a more serious concern today. Do you see this as a negotiating tactic ahead of the next round, or do you see the president going through with it?
I see him going through with it. It is also an excellent negotiating tactic because he's willing to persevere and pull it off. So it's clearly not an idle threat. I would not be surprised at all if at 12:01 a.m. on Friday, those new tariffs go into effect. But I think he's picked the absolute best time when he has the most cards in his favor to pull this off, given the uptick in the economy, the unemployment being at historic lows. There's never been a better time for him to be able to play hardball, and he's using that to his advantage. So you concur that the president is right to put the squeeze on China. In fact, some Democrats have even supported the president tightening the screws on China. But Dan, the question remains, what kind of a deal should be extracted at this time? Should it be a deal that is more narrow and focuses mostly on trade issues, or is now the time to make sure that you do get a more comprehensive deal that also addresses those intellectual property practices and violations, the forced data transfers? Is this the chance to get the deal to tackle all of this? Well, I'm going to interject a couple of other factors, Michelle, and certainly following the more famous Dan in this part of your segment here has given me some things to think about. And, you know, I'm going to focus on enforcement and then reprisals, or, you know, tariffs that would come back to hit the U.S. And these are a couple of areas that, you know, Steve Mnuchin has made very, very clear, Robert Lighthizer as well. You know, we need to have enforceability. It needs to have teeth. It needs to be biting. And we have to have retaliation built into it. This is, of course, the administration's position. So I'm just going to shift away from the content for a second in terms of the what, but I'm going to focus on the how. And I think that's where the breakdown has been. At one point, perhaps the Chinese were saying, okay, we'll go along with that, but now clearly they're not. The other thing we hear is that the codification of these various changes, concessions, agreements, the U.S. would like to see put into actual law by the People's Congress, and China is evidently stopping short of that and saying, you know, we'll do it through administrative and agencies, but we really aren't going to start messing with the laws of our country over this trade spat. So I think that's where the breakdown is occurring. Now, on the content side, what you're bringing up, absolutely. It's about forced tech transfers. It's about IP theft or allegations thereof. But I think those are being dealt with. I think now it's okay. You've recognized that you've got to respond to this, China. We want to make sure this has teeth, it's biting, and it sticks. And again, that's where Trump is sticking to his guns and saying, you know, no teeth, no deal.
Dan, very quickly, if China doesn't like it, which it doesn't, how does it retaliate? The president can slap tariffs on more goods. China's run out of U.S. goods to slap tariffs on, or will soon. How does China retaliate, if at all?
You know, it's going to be very difficult. Now, China obviously knows what they're doing, and they're very enterprising, and they can figure out things and out-negotiate virtually anyone. However, the cards on Trump's side of the table are much stronger at this point, and there's a lot of pressure, a lot of focus, a lot of attention on Mr. Xi to be able to resolve this. So I don't see a whole lot of leverage that China brings to the table. As you pointed out, it's very interesting that Chuck Schumer is now in this bipartisan effort to support President Trump to take a strong stance against China. So, you know, he's pretty rock solid right now.
All right, Dan, appreciate it. Dan McClory, thank you.